He didn't want to leave. Myanmar was home, but the violence was so brutal, so overwhelming. Fleeing to Bangladesh was the only choice.
They were slaughtering even young children and killing everyone. We were very much afraid of them shooting us. That's why we fled.
Dil Mohammed was one of more than 700,000 Rohingya Muslims pushed out after the Myanmar military carried out what the top UN investigator calls a genocide, killing, raping, and torturing their way through Rakhine State, which Myanmar denies. His nephews and other relatives were killed in the violence. Now, more than a year since the exodus began last August, some refugees are being asked to return.
I was told by the camp leader that my name was on the list and that I would have to go back immediately.
The fear of going back to Myanmar, coupled with all he's been through, was just too much. Dil Mohammed had celebrated his 60th birthday this year, and he decided it would be his last.
I felt very upset, and I remembered what had happened to my relatives. I couldn't bear it.
Dil Mohammed tried to end his own life, but he survived and recovered in the hospital, now back in his home. It turns out his name wasn't on the official list of refugees approved for return. It was just a rumor. Bangladesh officials insist that any returns would be voluntary, but fears are spreading among those who are on the list of more than 2,000 names, and some of them are now moving from camp to avoid being sent back.
We came here to stay with our relatives. Now I am unable to get rations and just living on the run.
We came from a heap of fire, and they are trying to send us back to that heap of fire. We are afraid. We are not even eating anymore.
The UN and the US have called for the repatriations to halt as conditions aren't safe for the Rohingya to return. On Wednesday, the US Vice President pressed the issue with Myanmar's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, in Singapore.
The violence and persecution by military and vigilantes that resulted in driving 700,000 Rohingya to Bangladesh is without excuse.
On a recent government-led trip inside the restricted area of Rakhine State, we were shown the border area where refugees would arrive.
So the plan would be for refugees to come back from Bangladesh just behind me and then come through this gate and into one of these booths here where they would meet an immigration officer for the first time. But if you were wondering if these are being used at all, well, sure doesn't look like it.
Myanmar says some of the returnees would be identified and processed here before being transferred to a different camp within Myanmar. The fear from Rohingya refugees is that if they go back without proper citizenship rights or safety guarantees, they will be vulnerable all over again to abuse and violence.
They will put us in the camps and persecute us.
Dil Mohammed says unless some of these basic conditions are met, he will never return home. Matt Rivers, CNN.